It is official. The head man, the myth, the mullet, Mike Gundy himself is out as a head coach at Oklahoma State. I may have went to the school for kids who can't count good, but after 4 years as a player, after 10 years as an assistant, and 21 years as the head man, that's 36 years of Mike Gundy's services in Stillwater that have officially come to an end.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We are here for a live edition. Obviously, this is some breaking stuff. I appreciate what you do. If you're out there, leave some stars, hit some reviews. Today, we're going to have a lot to talk about. We're going to have a lot to dive into. We're going to have some guests kind of filter in here. But before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, we're partially brought to you by Gametime today. Gametime Tickets is the place where you need to go. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Get squared away with Gametime today. All right, so ironically enough, we are scheduled to jump on Mountaineer Paul's show today to discuss the potential of Wren Baker replacing Chad Weiberg as the athletic director. So in the vein of having guests throughout the course of the day, I want to go ahead and bring on Mountaineer Paul because this is the news that is permeating across the country, as it should be. Mike Gundy is gone. He's out as the head man after 36 years in Stillwater, America. Paul, just from your perspective, before we dive into some of the Wren Baker stuff, whenever you see something like this happen, the timing of it is naturally a little suspect in my personal opinion. But what are your thoughts, right? You're a big fan of the Big 12. You're a big fan of what Oklahoma State has done for the conference. We have a lot of commonality.
Right.
Give us your thoughts here, brother man.
Well, we just went through it, right? We just replaced Neil Brown, obviously not a pillar of the program like Mike Gundy, but I can relate in the Bob Huggins sense of the words, right? Because we just lost Bob Huggins recently. I know what it's like to replace a pillar of the program and have to rebuild from scratch. It's not always pretty.
Right.
It's not always easy. There's always that year zero you like to give somebody, or at least, some semblance of a year zero in this day and age.
Roger. It's
really hard to build from scratch in this day and age. As far as Mike Gundy, is it a stretch to say he's the greatest coach in the history of the Big 12? I think there's a couple names you can toss into that hat, obviously. But I think, what he's done for the program, what he's done for college football, what he's done as a play caller, his coaching tree. Obviously, we had Dana Holgorsen, who was a big part of that staff and had a lot of those values that Mike Gundy, loves, which is basically attack grass, spread people horizontally. That whole play style is something that a lot of people have really shown to like and adapt to so far as even in the NFL right now. So what Mike Gundy has done is ever-reaching. It's going to be everlasting. I think there have been obviously high moments. There have been low moments where, obviously you can look to the Ollie Gordon statements after the DUI, or you can look to the I'm a man, I'm 40 speech, which everybody loves. There's a bunch of things, a bunch of peaks, a bunch of valleys. But I think at the end of the day, when you look at the tenure of Mike Gundy, you can say a couple of things for sure. That's Hall of Fame worthy, and it won't be duplicated.
So, I do think that he is in the upper echelon of the Big 12 coaches, right? The only knock I could personally give to Mike Gundy would be that he doesn't have enough conference titles to be in that upper echelon conversation, to be the number one guy, right? But he is in the upper tier of the greatest coaches in the Big 12. From a wins perspective, up until this last season and a half, he is certainly up there, right? I think you could make the argument that the lack of Big 12 titles and the Bedlam losses are probably the only black eyes on his entire tenure until now, right? And again, when you go back and think that Mike Gundy was the quarterback for the teams that Oklahoma State always looked towards as the shining light, right? 44, 45, 84 through 88. Those were the cream de la creme years of Oklahoma State fandom. Mike Gundy was a part of that, right? And he was an assistant in the Les Miles era where we kind of were rebuilding after the Bob Simmons days. He has been instrumental. And for those of you out here that watched the show yesterday, this adds some context, all right? So We'd heard that there was some meetings Saturday that started at 9 a.m. They went through 7:30 p.m. Then I got a few messages around 7:30, 7:40, like it's a done deal. We're just waiting to figure out who the interim guy is going to be, which is precisely why I had the episode I did yesterday. Because
you got killed for, by the way.
I did get massacred for, which is actually ironic, right? Because, 3 years ago when I started this thing, one of my first videos in the first 2 months was about how I thought Mike Gundy screwed the pooch in 2022, and he was away from the facilities too much, and he was off buying companies and having meetings and letting other people run the day-to-day operations. And I got crucified for that, right? Because I was considered a Gundy hater, and I suggested then he should be on a one-year contract, a year-to-year contract. I always thought the revolving 5-year thing was absolute insanity, right? I don't think any school should ever give somebody the keys to the kingdom quite that much, because I do think that it equaled this. And I discussed that a little bit yesterday. From 2022 until now, Mike Gundy did think that he had this thing calculated. Mike Gundy did think that he could step away and allow other people to run things. He thought this was a well-oiled machine. And you know what, Paul? It probably flipping was until the NIL and transfer portal era. And Mike Gundy, admittedly, he was behind the 8 ball on the transfers. He was the 8 ball on the NIL. He's been behind the 8 ball on the donors' perspective, right? There is conversations lingering that some donors just are refusing to give big money right now because Mike Gundy's the head man, right? So the Board of Regents is maybe an obstacle. We're going to save some of that for segment 3. But before we get to that, man, do you think that at the end of the day, this was just ripping a Band-Aid off of a bullet hole? Because the downside to this is now you open the doors for everybody on the roster to leave the program, right? They're going to get this 30-day transfer window. And there was some speculation that that was going to make things potentially difficult for Oklahoma State. Why do you think they did this now, right? Because essentially, if you waited like 5-6 more weeks, you could retain the roster and have some semblance of a season. Why do you look at the timing of this as a necessity here?
Well, I think, it depends on what kind of person you are, but I think at the end of the day, you have to look at it like this. What's best for both players and coach? It's not one-sided, and also fans, I guess, too. Yeah. But, if I'm in the 80 chair, I'm probably going to be looking at players and coaches first and then fans. And I think what's best for players and coach is probably now. You don't want to have them pigeonholed in like, look what Auburn just did with their coaching situation. Just a bad look for them, right? I mean, I'm not here to speak on whether or not Bruce Pearl's son is going to be a good coach or not.
Roger.
But I think that waiting until there was no other choice to fire him there's bad optics, right? Don't do that at Oklahoma State. Go ahead and just get it done. Pull the Band-Aid off. It's going to be a bullet hole, just like West Virginia is going through 81 new players. Not easy to fix. It's not fixable fast unless you get the right players in immediately, or like a guy like, look at, what happened at Indiana, or some kind of what happened at TCU. Even Rich Rod brought people in from Jack State.
Yeah.
If you can find a coach like that, perhaps that brings in a bunch of guys. But as far as the timing of it, I think it's best for Coach Gundy because he can figure out what he wants to do next. It's best for the players because they can figure out whether they want to be a Cowboy or not going forward, which I think there's a lot of speculation about, right? Based on things that have been said on the sideline, things have been said in the locker room, people talking about buying jewelry, different things like that, right? So look at it from the perspective of this could be a positive thing, because whenever we got rid of Dana going into Neil, there were a ton of cancers in the locker room.
Yeah.
Just
right. And I talked about A&M going through the same exact transition too. Yes.
Yeah. So you're going to get those guys that aren't program guys out of the locker room, and you're never going to have 100% of program guys, right. Very rarely. But the culture can be strong enough to the point, and we throw the culture word out there a lot. I get it. But, it is a thing and it is true. So, you want to have that established to the point of obviously where guys are going to be able to adhere, even if they're a little bit off from that. And like you say, Gundy, you said he was acting more of that CEO role. Maybe his pulse on the culture of the locker room wasn't as strong as it once was. Just
Well, and
speculation from the outside looking in.
I've been one of the parties that's been accusatory in that department over the last couple seasons.
Right.
It's just having a disconnection from the locker room. We're about to cover a couple things, have another guest come on board, but real quick, I do want to kind of touch on something that you hit. I talked about yesterday that I did think the timing of this wasn't great to do it this early, but now that it is done, I think it's fair for us to look at the prospects of some of the dudes that could potentially come in. The one thing I do like about this timing-wise is if you wait too long, right, you might not be able to get an Alex Golesh because the Florida job might pop open. Yeah, I think Arkansas is not very happy with Pittman. Therefore, they're probably going to be in the search soon. Then you have John Summerall, which I think is a great coach at Tulane, but he's a Kentucky dude, and they're not exactly happy with Mark Stoops. So I do think that there's an element of if you wait too long, you could put yourself in a position where you're having difficulty fulfilling that void. So from that perspective, I do get it, right? I do kind of agree. Again, my issue is if you know there's going to be a mass exodus, some of that could be beneficial because clearly there's some cancerous individuals in the locker room. My only fear here now is that if this portal window opens and if some of these people enter it, that it's not necessarily going to be the cancerous people. It might be some of the dudes who are ready to run their face through brick walls for Oklahoma State, for the orange and black. That is my biggest fear. But at the same point in time, if there's a call to arms for those dudes, it needs to be now. There could be a galvanization moment with an interim staff. It does happen occasionally, yeah? And maybe that's a necessity. Regardless of who the interim guy is going to be, maybe this is an opportunity for them to say in the locker room, all right, guys, we've got to cut the shit, right? If we're getting to the point that we're firing a legend that's about to have a statue outside of the stadium, then that means that shit has hit the fan, right? We're at that effort moment. So check your egos out the door. Stop worrying about what your NIL is. Stop worrying about reassessments or the trucks or the bling bling. None of that crap. You need to send a message, right? If you're a coach on this staff, you're likely going to be looking for a new job when the season's over. So go put something on display. If you're one of the players that's likely to enter the transfer portal, this is an opportunity for you to go to put something on film on display. Am I wanting that to happen? I'm not. But I wanted to accentuate a pretty good point you made there. All right, real quick, we got to remind the fine folks out here that there's good ways to go support your local businesses and much more before we get to another guest and we carry this thing on. Ladies and gentlemen, go support a local business. You can do that today, and one of the best ways that you can physically possibly do that is always going to be with Square. I have to run right up the road to get groceries from Safeway. That is the local spot for me. Whenever you're looking at the neighborhood and the camaraderie, the community, I think that is imperative today. And having a business that you can support that gives that neighborhood feel is important. Whether it's local sports bars, packed on game days, a coffee shop that you love down the street. For me, going to the corner deli, going to the supermarket. They've been serving your community for quite some time. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood can obviously roll together and thrive better. It's the kind of place where you walk in and everybody kind of knows your name. The staff is like family, and they're like serving this community for years, and it allows you to feel connected. These local spots are what make neighborhoods feel like home. With so many of them now running on Square, you need to be squared away today as well. Square is a proud partner of over 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockoncollege to learn more. But before you do, make sure that you support your local neighborhood spot. You will be happy that you did. Get with Square so that you can see and be part of the neighborhood 24/7. That connectivity is imperative for all of our success. Then we got to talk about getting tickets, because regardless of what's happening, now is your time. College football is here, and the excitement, especially in scenarios like this, add to the mystique, the tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's literally nothing like it in life, in my personal opinion, but we also got to be realistic. Sometimes getting tickets is more of a task than winning the ball game on the football field, whether it's endless waiting or hidden fees or prices jumping at checkout. This is why you got to use Gametime tickets, the app that gives you the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you'll pay. The app makes it super simplistic. You could see the exact view from your seat, panoramic style, so there's no ridiculousness of getting put in the wrong spot. You're going to love the zone deals where you pick the section and Gametime picks the seats for you and you save big dollar bills. So take the guesswork out of you buying college football tickets or any other ticket with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply, but again, create that account, redeem that code, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. It's simple. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. So you need to go download Gametime tickets today. All right, fellas, now we get to add some fun sauce to the party. A good friend of the show, Trent, is in the building. Buddy, oh, pal, this was not the news that we were anticipating necessarily today. There was some talk of it happening over the weekend, but here we are, dude. We are in this space, and Mike Gundy is no longer the guy. First of all, what is your guttural reaction to this? And secondarily, what do you think about the specific timing?
Honestly, first reaction, chills. I'm not sure if it's a good or bad. I think it's more, I can't wrap my head around that, Mike Gundy is gone. I'm 30 years old, so Mike Gundy has been the head coach of Oklahoma State football for over half of my life, and it's weird, man. It's really weird, but I think it needed to be done. But it's just going to take a while to set in. As much hate as, some of us have given him and critiqued him, I feel bad for the guy. I do, after listening to his press conference yesterday. It's kind of gut-wrenching after him saying, I intend to be the head football coach next year 100%. And every day I'll still pour my heart and soul into this until I'm relieved of my duties. So it's just really weird. I'm kind of surprised that they let him do the press conference yesterday if they knew they were going to fire him.
Yeah. I don't like that.
Let him come out and say all that stuff. I just think it's kind of cringe on the university, and that's what makes me feel bad for him. But it needed.
Well, and sometimes you can look back and make things make sense. If you go back and replay that interview, I'm sure you noticed when he seemingly got pretty irritated with Barry Trammell. That almost leads me to believe that Barry knew that this thing was already on the clock, and it makes me believe that Gundy probably knew that as well. Which is why there was a little bit of animosity. But I'm with you yesterday, like. Why roll him out and do that? I don't necessarily think that is the right play. That is the right move. But it is what it is. We are where we are.
Yeah.
And are you, Trent, concerned with a mass exodus, or do you think that there could be potential for an interim regalvanization of this locker room?
I mean, there's so much that goes into it, because I guess the big question is who takes over at interim head coach right now. Like, I don't like any of our coaches. I don't think any of them would be good to take over, but I mean, it has to happen. I think regardless of whether you're going to fire Mike Gundy today or wait till the end of the year, you're going to lose players. You're going to lose recruits. But at this point, we've fallen so far down in the last 2 years that I wouldn't even be upset if we lost all of our players and we had to restart. Like, I think we just need a fresh start, need to burn it all down, let a new coach come in, build his own culture, get his own players in. We might suck again next year. Maybe not. I guess it really just depends on how much money we're willing to pour into NIL as donors and fans. So either way, I would love to keep a few of the players, but I won't be upset if everyone leaves.
So I wanted to put this comment up here because literally as you were saying that, I just got a text right now, 1 minute ago, that says, it's from a player, this is not getting a good reaction in the locker room. That's why I just got that just now. Now, and I covered this yesterday. Is a handful of players the same as 95, 105 dudes? Yeah, probably not. But at the same point in time, I have a hard time believing that if a group of the dudes in the locker room feel some particular way, I have no thoughts on it kind of spreading bigger than that. So I think the ramifications of this could be not great, but Paul, we were talking yesterday about the Ren Baker conversation, and naturally, Trent, I want your perspective on this as well. Having some and knowing some people that know Chad, it has been kind of floated around for a few weeks, almost a couple months now, that Chad Weiberg was likely not to get retained, especially after Dr. Shrum was let go. And I remember, Trent, I think you were on the show when we were having the conversation then, that I didn't like the way of it. I didn't like the stink of it. It felt like the Board of Regents was kind of making things personal, which
kicking
is
the can down the road.
What's up?
Kicking the can down the road too, you know.
Well, I think it was clearly them removing the layers of protection for Mike Gundy over that BOR thing. And because of that, I do have reservations. And also because of that, I do have concerns about Ren Baker. But you're a West Virginia dude. You have a good relationship with Ren. Paul, what is West Virginia country feeling in your opinion right now, knowing that Mike Gundy is gone, knowing that not only if the AD was going to be removed or not, he just had open heart surgery, so they're probably going to say that he's not coming back because of medical, which is fine and potentially somewhat fair. But we have a head coaching vacancy now, and we also likely have an athletic director vacancy now. The number one target in Cowboy country has to be Ren Baker. How does Mountaineer Nation feel about that?
They wouldn't feel good about it. There are some people that would feel good about it. But I want you to take a victory lap, by the way, because, man, you've been right about everything. You deserve that. I behind the scenes know that. You just want to put you on a pedestal really quick.
Thanks.
For the people listening to this show, you deserve the flowers. You've known about all these things that are going to happen since the weekend. You have. So I just want to say to those who are listening that may question credibility, Cody has elite credibility, so you need to know that.
I wouldn't go that far, but thank you.
Well, I mean, everything you've ever told me about Oklahoma State has pretty much happened. So anyway, as far as Ren Baker goes, you know, obviously we love Ren. He's entrenched at West Virginia. He's planted down roots in West Virginia. He's really made the attempt. Most of us know as well that the Oklahoma job is open, and he turned that down. He's an Oklahoma guy. He's from Valorant. How do you say it? Valiant. How is it?
Valiant.
Which is they say is a little closer to Texas or something. But either way, he's an Oklahoma guy, mostly an Oklahoma State guy, right? Came up under Eddie Sutton. He that whole thing. He was obviously been in the athletic department before at Oklahoma State and loved his time there. And most people speculated early in his tenure that he would leave West Virginia for Oklahoma State if that job, it was the quote unquote one job that we were worried about. He just signed an extension for hundreds of thousands of dollars. His buyout's fairly large for an athletic director. He's got two young girls in school in West Virginia. He's got, if you ever get a chance to go look at his property is in West Virginia, it's incredible. There are a lot of reasons that most West Virginia fans feel like he wouldn't leave, but it's a worry. It's a fear. It is for me personally. I don't know Ren well enough to know what his thoughts are on this, obviously. But I would say that it's a fear. I think at the end of the day, do you do it now? Because here's the thing. He's been through everything at West Virginia that you're going to need to go through at Oklahoma State now. He had to replace Bob Huggins at West Virginia as soon as he stepped on campus, right? And then that led to a succession of coaches. He had to replace the basketball coach.
Yeah, I don't think you can count Darian DeVries against him. Darian DeVries had a once-in-a-lifetime job pop up, and I can correlate that to Jim Knowles at Oklahoma State. Like, if it wasn't Ohio State, the chances of him leaving were fairly slim. So I don't think you can knock DeVries on that, and I don't think that's disrespectful to West Virginia. Indiana traditionally, historically, does carry that level of cachet to make it a little bit better. But I'm sorry, proceed.
Yeah, so he had to replace the football coach at West Virginia, obviously. He extended Neil Brown, but literally Neil won 9 games as soon as he walked in the door. So it's like, what do you do there, right?
Right, yeah.
Like it basically saved his job or he was out. So that didn't happen, but, he fired him when it was time. So he's had to replace the football coach. He's obviously had to replace the women's basketball coach. We had a 1-year person step in that was really good, went to Minnesota. Now he's hired another basketball coach that's won 27 or more games 3 straight years. Now he's replaced the baseball coach with an Oklahoma State alum, Steve Sabins, right?
Yep.
And everything is in a place now to where he can actually be the AD and fundraise and do all these other things and not worry about the state of the program. I think the biggest question is this: does he want to do it all over again at Oklahoma State? because I think it's a valid question.
Right.
Replacing Gundy is a huge task. And Ren Baker's an elite hirer as well, which we can, if you go look back at the people he's hired, when and where, you can go look back at this North Texas stuff. I mean, Grant McCasland and people like that. Like, he's very good at what he does. Most people point to Rich Rodriguez and question that because it's a retread. But I mean, I think that, it's a good hire. But, so I think it would be a huge coup for Oklahoma State to get Ren. He's an elite fundraiser. That's what he does, is raise money.
Right.
West Virginia will be in the top funding tier of the Big 12 now because of what Ren Baker is doing. And this is where you guys aspire to be. And it's probably the reason you are where you are, because you're not currently. And I think that's how he could help you most. But if you're asking me whether I think he'll leave or not, I would say at this point in time, I would say 60-40. I think he'll stay over leaving.
Ooh, okay.
But I do think the balance could tip. But, for now, I think things are stable at West Virginia, and I would lean that direction.
Okay. Well, Trent, I definitely want to get your take on this, and then we'll bring on one of the funnest guests of all time ever on this show here in a few. But real quick, before we get to Trent's take on Ren and Weiberg and all that fun stuff, I saw this pop up. Is Glass gone too? I think we could all unanimously agree probably. And I just wanted to say real quick that there has been some concerns in the last few years about all of the injuries that have popped up and perhaps what hand Rob Glass could play in that. It is potentially possible that Rob Glass is such a bad mamma jamma that he's also so old school that maybe the dexterity, the side-to-side lateral quickness isn't an emphasis as much as getting massive and shedding a bunch of body fat. So I think Glass and Gundy are probably tied together, and I do think that there is a commonality there of them both being super old school to the point that maybe it's beneficial, kind of like a Rob Walton thing. All right, now, Trent, what are your thoughts on the Weiberg situation and Oklahoma dude that bleeds orange, at least to some degree, Ren Baker possibly coming back, and then we'll bring Jason up in here.
Well, I was going to say this earlier, too. I thought it was really weird that they would go ahead and fire Mike Gundy with not knowing really what's going to happen with Chad, with no new contract or whatnot. And I had also heard recently that people said he was going to step down because he almost, died a month or two ago, had to have serious heart surgery. So I hate it for Chad, honestly. I might be in the minority. I know some people feel the same and some people feel opposite, but I think Chad is an excellent AD. Really good guy. I mean, people want to bash him for these last couple of years, but they also don't realize what he stepped into. He, from the jump, he's had to make some really, really hard decisions with coaching and other things. So if he gets let go, I will honestly be very upset because I don't think he deserves it. But if that's what happens, that's what happens. And I do think Ren is an excellent choice. I think he's probably the number one choice that we go after, whether he takes it or not. You don't know. Like I said, he could love West Virginia and want to stay there. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I personally just really don't want to speak too much on it until we know 100% what's going to happen to Chad, just out of respect for Chad, because I've talked to the guy many times face to face. He's an awesome guy. So I'll wait to really talk more on that next show we get on whenever we figure out some more. But if he did get fired or let go, I think Ren is the obvious choice.
Well, I love Chad. Big fan of Chad. I do think that the only thing that he's done that put himself in a precarious situation was him and Schrum working around the BOR to get that contract done. But Jason has been probably the most adamant Mike Gundy dude that I have ever hung out with or ever conversated with. And I definitely wanted to get your take on all of this, your opinion on all of this, because not only do I respect it, not only is our dialogue typically fun, somewhat contentious at times, which makes it more interesting, but what is your thoughts, man? You have been I will punch you in the throat repeatedly and throw you through a glass pane if you talk about Mike Gundy guy for a long time. So holler at me, Goose.
Well, I mean, I went viral when the Board of Regents tried to do this at the end of last season. They talked about me on a bunch of podcasts and a bunch of national stuff. And I said that if they fired Mike Gundy, after that 3-9 season that I would go jerk my daughter out of that school and never pay them another dime.
Yep.
But I actually agree with what happened today.
Okay.
I agree with it because so if the rumors are true, if the information that we're getting is true, that there's tons of donors out there that are just unwilling to spend their money with Gundy at the helm.
You have no choice.
Just because you have no choice. Just because I like Mike Gundy and I don't think that the things that he says are off the wall or obscure. I think they're funny a lot of times. That doesn't really matter because I'm not the one paying the bills. I mean, I show up to games. I spend a couple $100 a weekend on some tickets. I go buy some beer. But if there's several 8-figure donors out there that are unwilling to spend their hard-earned money, if Gundy's at the helm, then we're kind of forced to do so. But to go back to the AD situation, this does signal to me that Chad is out. Then the AD is going to have to be hired first, and this gives them plenty of time to figure that out because we're obviously not going to name a head coach anytime in the near future. The search will start, but we're not going to name one. They're going to have to figure out the AD situation. I hate it for Chad, just with his health situations and everything that's going on. Him and Schrum were 100% on board with keeping Gundy. They fought for Gundy last year. The Board of Regents did not like that. They felt like Schrum and Weiberg were undermining them in some aspect. They've already got rid of Dr. Schrum. Yep. Now Chad's next. Gundy's just been let go. So we're going to figure that out. I don't know if Ren's the guy or not. We'll figure that part out because that can happen now if the AD is reciprocative. If he wants to come, he can leave his post now. And then the actual coaching search will happen.
Well, so I definitely have some thoughts on some of this that we're going to continue to dive into. But obviously, before we do that, I do have to remind the fine folks out here that there are a lot of things in life that we need to be continuously paying attention to. And there's also a lot of things in life that can make life much, much more exciting. At the end of the day, this is rough. So maybe you just need to go out, relax, and take a nice long drive. If you ain't driving a Mazda, then maybe you need to move so you can be moved by Mazda. You know that they craft cars for those who do more than just simply want to move. Mazda delivers with almost every single ride more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else since August of 2025. From the footwork to the breath work, Mazda brings the same intentionality to every single model that they craft. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every single detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but an everyday drive. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, the all-wheel drive system comes in almost every single crossover SUV so that you can drive with confidence through almost any season. So like some of our players who like to sweat every single detail, Mazda does the same. So make sure that you make every single move count, because impossible becomes irrelevant if you have a Mazda. Get with Mazda today so you can move and be moved by Mazda. All right, Fellerinos, before we kind of continue to dive into some of this here, I'll admit, I think the timing of this is potentially concerning, and I'll tell you why. And I also think that there's something tied to this AD thing that I wanted to mention. What's up?
Just pulled up ESPN for the first time since all this happened, and right on the front page, sources: Oklahoma State fires longtime coach Gundy, with a picture of him. It just makes it seem so surreal.
Yeah,
it is crazy, and you have to draw the parallels to the all black blackout against Tulsa, right? It just felt too. I don't know, too on the nose, I guess you could say, with everybody wearing all black inside Boone Pickett Stadium. But I do want to continue to elaborate a little bit more on the Ren Baker situation. Here's my biggest concern, and we've all talked a little bit about the Board of Regents, and I am curious on Paul's take on this, on kind of how the external views would be from another Big 12 school. But how many other places have a Board of Regents operating quite this way? And here's my concern. I feel like the Board of Regents is more about some internal stuff than they are about what's always best for Oklahoma State. Regardless of how anybody feels about Gundy, I think that we can agree that 99% of the time, Mike Gundy was always just here to do what was best for Oklahoma State at the end of the day. I have concerns that the BOR may not necessarily be that way. I also have concerns that's precisely why Ren Baker might not be an applicable dude for Stillwater, Oklahoma, because if anybody's going to get in the way and screw the pooch here, I feel like it could be our Board of Regents, because it appears as though they want yes men to some degree. Yeah. So I think Ren Baker would be too big of a risk, because Ren Baker would push back. Ren Baker would bring in new donors that they might not agree with. What are you guys' thoughts on that? And then I want to hear Paul's take on it. But
that's what happens, Cody. That's what happens whenever these people are trying to get on our Board of Regents for political aspirations instead of for what's best for Oklahoma State. When the governor of our state can appoint people to a board that, so what? Kevin went to school here. So what? Who cares? He's putting his cronies and his yes men on this board, and they're just doing this crap for political aspirations. It makes no sense to me. This whole process, if you want to fire Mike Gundy, that's fine. If you want to fire him for what's going on the field over the last year plus 3 games, I'm fine with that. But they made it very, very clear over the last 4 or 5 years that this has nothing to do with the performance on the field. They've been looking for any reason to get rid of Mike Gundy. That's what happened with the whole Chuba Hubbard deal. That's what happened with the whole I've drank 3 or 4 beers 1,000 times and got in the truck. Like they just make a mountain out of a molehill every time something comes out of Gundy's mouth, because they've looked for a reason. And now, unfortunately for Mike, he gave them the ammunition to be able to appease the fan base and say, this is why we did it.
Trent, give me your thoughts, and then we'll circle around to Paul's external Big 12 take on it.
Yeah, no worries. I'm going to say this, and then I got to hop off, fellas. My email is blowing up. I got people calling me for work. So I think regardless, no matter how you feel about Mike Gundy, this is either going to be one of the worst days in Oklahoma State football history, because you're firing a guy who absolutely loves Oklahoma State and has been loyal and true and stuck around here when he could have went to bigger programs, or it's going to be one of the best days, one of the most important, where we had to let go of a legend, but it was for the better. It ended up being successful for the football program. But me personally, I think the timing, just how it happened, like I said before Jason hopped on here, with them letting him do his press conference yesterday, I just think it's terrible timing out of respect for Mike Gundy. I mean, the season's already over for us anyway, so at least you can go out and announce that this is going to be the last season for Gundy, and let him, let everybody understand it, and then maybe not be so upset at him regardless of how the season turns out. We can all cheer for him for the next couple of home games, and then, he can ride off into the sunset. So I think that's what bothers me the most, is just that we let him go right now. It's more shocking than anything. We should have just waited for the season. It's not it's not going to benefit us. It doesn't benefit us firing him right now. But
hey, Cody, I do want to make one point, though, to Trent's point, that they did Mike Gundy wrong. I may be the only person on this panel right now that is old enough to have lived in a time where Mike Gundy was not associated with Oklahoma State football. This dude was a part of the program in some capacity as a player, a GA, an assistant coach, or a head coach for 36 years. So let's not forget that.
Because I did go for the school for kids can't count good. So I appreciate you on that one. Trent, real quick, before you do skedaddle on off of here, do you think that there is a statue of Mike Gundy up by homecoming? Because I think that there should be.
No. What's going to happen was someone said it, and I agree. I think it's going to, especially now with how OSU let Gundy go. You know how Gundy is. He can be kind of petty. We all know that. I think it'll be, give it 2 years, and then, I think everyone will be okay. Let things just kind of ride out. Time heals everything. So I think it'll be a couple years before that happens. To be honest, if I were Gundy and I just got let go the way I got let go, and then in a couple weeks you have a statue of me sitting up, I think that's a slap in the face. I think.
Okay. All right.
I think Gundy needs time. OSU needs time, but he will 100% get a statue. He will get put in the Ring of Honor. I just think you give it a couple years. It might have been Jason that said that. I don't know, but yeah, I think you definitely give it a couple years, let things smooth over, and.
Well, what you just said was very smart. So I probably did say that at some point. You probably already repeated me.
No. I mean, maybe so. I mean, you can be smart sometimes, but yeah, I don't know, man. Like I say, guys.
Hi, buddy.
Crazy day. Thanks for having me on. We'll definitely be running it back here soon. And I apologize for hopping off so quick.
No, you need
you,
to go.
buddy.
You need to go run your businesses and get your donor stuff up because you're going to help save this stuff here.
Hey, yeah, I did want to say too, I hopped on right when you were doing your ads and you did one for Square. We use Square for both of my businesses. It's great, guys. If you're opening a small business or you got a business going on, definitely rock with Square. They'll get you right.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that plug, but I don't recall you plugging Rougiette Ready in this entire episode, especially with Jason coming in.
He ain't old enough yet. He's not old enough for that yet.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
Jason, you guys got a couple years on me, so anyway. Well, all right, fellas. As always, roll in, folks. Let's see what happens.
Appreciate you. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. See ya.
All day, every day. All right, Paul. Let's circle back around to you, my friend.
What do you say, Bob?
What are your thoughts on? I don't know, just the fact that this has gone down the way that it has, and how you think the rest of Big 12 country is going to react to this news. Because here's one thing that I feel like is inevitable for people that are kind of externally cut off from Oklahoma State in some capacity. They're going to rail Oklahoma State for getting rid of a legend, and you can never do this. You're going to go in the toilet. You're going to be in Nebraska. You know, some of that is an inevitable outcome from all this. But with that being said, what are your thoughts on, I don't know, just some of that in general? What do you think the Big 12 landscape is going to say about this?
There'll be some celebration too. There'll be some ribbing. There'll be a little bit of everything across the board. I think at the end of the day, you know, does it really matter what they think? I mean, you guys are Oklahoma State, man. You know what I mean? Like, you have, in my opinion, the best remaining brand in the Big 12, probably alongside West Virginia as far as a historical standpoint goes. Maybe BYU's in that category a little bit as well. But I mean, you know, so I think you guys, man, can stand on your own, you know, like, I'm not pandering to the Oklahoma State people. I've always felt this way about Oklahoma State. So I don't know. I feel like Gundy built it, he basically helped build it, you know, is a big reason for why it's that way. So there are going to be people that, like the guy you just had on, was obviously emotional over a lot of this stuff. And there is emotions involved with it. I cried when we hired Rich Rodriguez back for a lot of the reasons. I cried when we won the backyard brawl the other day. You know, like, that was 18 years of 13-9, getting knocked out of the national championship game. Like that, you believe that was a big release for a lot of us West Virginia fans. So there's a lot of that going on. I will answer some of your Board of Governors stuff that you were asking about, because I think that was an important question that kind of got lost.
Do you have one? And
yes, we do.
Okay.
So as a matter of fact, I keep track of it as well.
Do they interfere to this degree?
No, this is what I'm saying is Rim Baker has an excellent relationship with our Board of Governors. So as far as in my notes here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 statements that they have basically jointly made, or at least been noted in, since March. I'm sorry. So, you know, there's like the Michael T. Benson, our new president, their contract, the board of governors was, you know, involved heavily with that. Obviously, there was just a statement made on men's basketball where Ren Baker mentioned the Board of Governors' supportive role. When we released the NIL thing last week, saying we want to be in the top funding tier of the Big 12, that was all Board of Governors. Like, that was huge, you know, from that perspective. Like, that was them and Ren working together. There was the pre-resolution that they did where it was basically a full endorsement of Ren Baker. Like, the Board of Governors, they just put out a statement saying, hey, look, in September, we believe in what Ren's doing. We're giving him the keys, right? So there have been all these different things. Like, they work really well together. The way our board works is similar as well. The governor appoints, you get 4-year terms. You're eligible for 1 reappointment. You can have no more than 9 from the same political party. At least 8 have to be West Virginians. You have to have 1 from like agriculture, 1 from forestry, you know, and all these different things you have to have. There's 15. You know, obviously the students vote 1 in, you know, so like there's a lot of bureaucraticness to it. But Ren Baker's figured out a way to work with them here. Going into a situation at Oklahoma State where that, you know, I'm going to assume he's already got relationships in the university. I don't know if he has any relationships with the current Board of Governors.
Tracking.
I'm assuming he probably would, because he's really connected to you know, Oklahoma State. I mean, it's basically home for him. So I don't know, but if it's going to be any pushback, I don't see that would even make my percentage go up from 60-40 to more if there was going to be any kind of pushback, because why would you want to leave a harmonious situation here at West Virginia where you're basically the king? I mean, he's the assistant vice president, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's got 2 titles. So, it would be a lot to leave. And I think both the programs are similar in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
The only way that they're really different is West Virginia is the only P4 school with no pro teams in West Virginia. Like, obviously Oklahoma has a bunch of different things for people to look at and watch.
Yeah,
but
like
outside
the
of
NBA
that,
champions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we would love to have something like that, but we don't. So that's what makes West Virginia different. And some people would say better because obviously we're the only show in town. So, at West Virginia, you get treated a little differently, whether you're in Ren Baker's position or whether you're an athlete, when you're the main guy at West Virginia. At Oklahoma State, you may have to share that. And Ren Baker is a spotlight guy. He really is.
Well, and that is precisely why I'm afraid that we're not going to get Ren Baker, because I don't think our Board of Regents is willing to have somebody come in and carry this big of a stick.
He's an alpha. Yeah.
Yes. And he's an alpha that can get new donors.
Yes, he is.
That's the only thing that current donors are probably afraid of, is new donors that don't have the political affiliations that some of the ones currently do. Okay, but yes, Jason, you and I both got to chuckle at the same time because I put this thing up. Now, my next episode is going to be a dive into some of the coaching prospects that we could be looking at and some of the limitations, etc. But before we get to that, Jason, I want your take on this, because I think this statement is maybe preposterous, is not quite the right word, but
I think trolling is the word you're looking for.
Okay, you think that's what
Yes.
this is? This 3-step back thing is
Arbuckle would take this head coaching job in a heartbeat, but I don't think Ben's ready for a head coaching job. He's coached 4 games at the University of Oklahoma, 3 games, whatever he's coached. Like, he came from Washington State, had a decent run up there.
Yeah.
You can go back to watch the Tech film from last year though, and that offense didn't hum. Mountaineer threw a bunch of interceptions, and a bunch of ill-advised throws in that game. So let's just pump our brakes a little bit on the Ben Arbuckle deal. I'm glad they're they've found some
Will
stuff out there.
Stein.
Well, I'm glad they figured some stuff out there in Norman. Seems like they're on their path to an 8-4 type of season. I know right now that fan base thinks they're going to the SEC championship and possibly the playoff. We'll see. Oklahoma, not to get too much into the coaching stuff unless you want to. I think we have to go find somebody that is a proven winner. We have to find somebody that is proven that they can recruit, and they can recruit kids like Gundy used to recruit. They can go find kids that aren't getting the offers to Texas and Oklahoma, and find some of those kids that he can go steal that we're willing to pay some money to, and really identify some talent. I don't even think that's a guy like Zach Robinson. I'm 100% going to go on the record right now. I do not want Zach Robinson to be the next head coach of Oklahoma State.
Well,
Oklahoma
so
State
it
head
is good
coach
that you
Neil
brought
Brown.
that up. It is good that you brought that up, because it does seem like the Jets have cooled quite a bit on Zach.
He's just to get fired anyway.
Well, and not only that,
They
I
just
think
got
there
shut
is
out,
still,
didn't they?
there's
Falcons.
a little bit of lingering irritation over how things were handled over the summer. But
Right.
on top of that, yeah, his last few performances have raised more eyebrows
Right.
than give people the warm and fuzzy feeling. So Zach may not even actually be a top 5 option at the moment, which is kind of crazy to say. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on the fact that person said it would be a 3 steps back job. That's insane to me. And that is one thing that I would hope Oklahoma State fans do get out of, because you and I both have heard it millions of times,
Sure.
that Oklahoma State will never, ever, ever do better. It's not physically possible, so they should never even try. I disagree with that sentiment.
I've never said that. I've never said we could never do better. I'm just saying, are we going to be able to find a guy that can be as good as Mike Gundy, or maybe even better, that's willing to stick around Oklahoma State long enough to actually build something? Or are they going to do it for 3 years? Say we go 10-2, 10-2, 12-1, and go to the playoff. If that's a guy like, obviously Neil Brown would never do that, but I'm just saying, like, if it was a guy like Neil Brown that had no connection to Oklahoma State whatsoever, and Alabama come knocking on the door, he's gone. He's out the door. I'll tell you my one guy that I think that we need to go back a Brinks truck up to his front door and beg him to come back to Stillwater to turn this thing around, and that's Jim Knowles. Go back a Brinks truck up to him. He's shown he's got the propensity. He ain't got no loyalty to these schools out there in the Big Ten and the East Coast. He's just looking to get paid. The dude's about to retire anyway. Let him come in here and give us 5 good years. Let the donors get behind him. Build this into a defensive juggernaut in the Big 12 and sprinkle in a really good offensive system to where we can go get players and be at the top echelon of this conference, and then pass it on to whoever you want to. Then do exactly like it should have been done under the Gundy era. Pass it along in a good situation instead of this absolute S show that we're in right now.
Well, what makes me laugh about that is that means Penn State would lose another defensive coordinator in like 3 years in a row or whatever it is. Because Knowles is at Penn State right now, right?
Correct.
Yeah, they just lost Manny Diaz. They lost then the year before that they lost the other guy. Like they keep losing the coordinators.
Well, to go with this comment and something that Jason said yesterday, I threw in some Talladega Nights, right? Mike Gundy, get your balls back, Ricky Bobby, and go take control of the roster. Obviously, my plea to the masses yesterday didn't work because Mike Gundy is no longer there. But I'm going to stick with this. Jason, you both, Paul, you both mentioned Neil Brown. Don't you wish that evil on us, Ricky Bobby? don't you do that shit. Because if we're drawing parallels, I firmly believe that him beating Garrett Rangel in the rain in Stillwater, America, is what kept Neil Brown his job for the next year right after that. And then he won 9 games. So I feel like we have some partial responsibility in the good and the bad portions of Neil Brown in Morgantown. We don't want that. What about
Dana Holgerson coming back? Would you guys accept that?
No. Not as the head coach. Not as the head coach.
I'd hold my arms wide open and help him move into his new apartment or wherever he wanted to live for the year if he wanted to come back and get this offense going.
Yeah. As OC. Oh yeah. Well, you're talking about a potential partial Brinks truck, right?
He's an elite OC
or something like that. So we are going to save the coaching options conversation for a little bit later on here. Before we close and skedaddle on off of here, I do want to ask a question, Jason, because I'm not 100% sure if you saw this, Paul, or heard about this, but Jason, do you think there's any validity to what's the way I'm trying to word it? Do you think there's any validity to the fact that the Board of Regents may put Oklahoma State in a precarious position moving forward if they do not view football as the front porch of Oklahoma State University?
Yes.
Thank you.
It will be the end. It will be the end of our athletic department. You might as well regulate us to the FCS.
Is this a thing?
Yeah.
Yes. You're seeing it unfold live in person.
Not only that, Paul, this is the same group of people that for whatever reason, they want the image of Oklahoma State to change. So they've tried to shut down the Strip and remove as many bars as physically possible to put restaurants on there because they don't want to be viewed as a party school or a dry campus. It's the same people that want that crap that seem to be the ones pulling some of the BOR strings behind the scenes. And I think it is horrendous potentially for Oklahoma State because we are in a slightly precarious situation with Mike Gundy, the situation that we're in, terrible season, looking at a likely another 1 or 2 win season.
We won't win another game, Cody. We will not win another game.
Well, if this will be a good gauge because if what I've heard from the players is accurate, yeah, we ain't going to win nothing.
Well, guess what? Guess what just opened? As soon as they fired Mike Gundy, guess what just opened? The 30-day transfer portal.
Yeah.
Anybody with a pulse that can tie their shoes is going to transfer today.
And what's crazy is I got, like Paul mentioned, I got a lot of flack for yesterday's show. Of course, I was getting called somebody that was going to lick Gundy's boots, and I just want a lock of Gundy's hair because, I got a ton of that. Yeah.
I will say that you've been on the other side of that argument between you and I many a times. You are definitely not a bootlicker for Mike Gundy, but I also think that you respect what Gundy's been able to do.
Well,
people can call me a bootlicker, and it's not going to hurt my feelings, but you are definitely not so.
Yeah.
A tuft of his hair.
At the end of the day, I have to admit, I am slightly concerned that our Board of Regents cares more about internal beefs to some degree than they do about putting Oklahoma State on a massive pedestal. Yep. I think all of us would agree. There's almost 400 people in this chat right here right now. If we were to go offer Ren Baker, he would take it, and he would do amazing, magical things here. So
You would.
the Board of Regents' next move, I think, is going to be very, very telling, because if they implant somebody that's just a random dude, no disrespect to Hess. I think President Hess has done a decent job. But I believe that Hess is just somebody that was pushed in there on purpose so they can have more say, more control. I hope that I'm wrong, but the next athletic director announcement will, in my opinion, dictate the direction that Oklahoma State's going to take, and I think that'll also dictate who becomes the next head coach. Fellas, I greatly appreciate you coming on here. Appreciate your time. Mountaineer Paul, tell the fine folks out here how they can see the work that you're doing, and then we'll ask the same of Jason.
Yeah, Locked On West Virginia, co-worker of Cody here. Definitely check me out there at Locked On West Virginia over on YouTube. Also at Paul Mountaineer on X. Jimbo Fisher will be your next Cowboys coach.
Oh, see, there you go. You're trying to do
Oh,
that.
man.
Wishing evil on this thing again. Jason, before you give your signing off here, this has not been talked about. It has not been mentioned, and I can be a whole transparent. I have no clue. I have heard nothing in the backgrounds on who could even be the interim head coach. I was a little concerned about that, and I touched on it yesterday, but I didn't elaborate enough. I have concerns with the interim thing, not just from the roster perspective, right, but also from, let's call it spade a spade. Doug Meacham and Todd Grantham have been certified ass cheeks.
They're dookie. I told you this when we hired them. They suck.
And so who are we going to interim to? I've seen some suggestions of JW or
that's
Jason.
that's exactly what I was fixing to say. That makes the only logical sense. Make JW the interim coach.
I'm with it. Do I think that JW Walsh is ready for that kind of responsibility? I do not.
Who gives a crap?
I do not think that Doug Meacham or Todd Grantham deserve to be rewarded with this opportunity.
That's right.
This has been a disastrous dumpster fire from play calling. And defensively, we went and got all these heavy hitters, right? We got dudes from LSU and Ole Miss and UCLA and Florida.
And we're somehow worse.
And then
we're somehow worse than we were under Nardo.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Same thing for us.
I don't get it.
We got a bunch of P4
with
guys
Alan Crawdaddy Bowman, all right, we murdered Tulsa 45-10.
Right.
Yeah.
And we beat an SEC school.
And Casey Dunn was sitting somewhere watching that thing with a beer in his hand, giving
yeah.
And I can't stand Casey Dunn. I thought that he needed to be fired 4 years ago. But nonetheless, that there is some people that looked at this whole announcement or this whole ordeal that transpired between Oregon and Tulsa that, I don't know, probably viewed it as a retributional style moment. All right. Anyway, I did want to cover that. Hopefully,
I said on Willie Foosball Space a minute ago that I'll do it for free. If I can just go sit in a booth with a headset on, I'll call plays for free. Like, we don't have to pay anybody. We just get rid of them all right now. I'm going to be at the games anyway. Just let me sit up there. I'll have 3 or 4 beers like in honor of Mike Gundy while I'm calling plays. And I promise you it's going to be a lot more exciting than what we've seen the last 2 or 3 years.
Well, so live on air, we are getting
oh, boy.
Yeah, it's being reported.
Well,
that if it's been reported by McMurphy, then that's that. It's
why did we do that?
Meacham.
So we're gonna just exacerbate a really bad situation in just a day, and Doug Meacham is now our head coach. What are we at? Can we just go on? I don't play Xbox or PlayStation, but isn't there a space where you could just stop playing the season when you're having a terrible season? Can't you just delete the season?
You can. Next season.
Can we just do that, please? Can we just do that?
You can just simulate the season, yeah.
The only saving grace for me is that the Thunder season starts in 4 weeks.
Well, see, I was actually going to give an Oklahoma State devil's advocate position here. The only, and again, this will be telling. I don't like this move. I don't think Grantham or Meacham deserve any of this. But and this will be a conversational piece. If the offense somehow magically goes out here and competes with Baylor,
that's true.
What is the narrative going to be?
It was Gundy. It was obviously Gundy, 100%. Yes.
Gundy was holding Meach back. So we will see. But if
that happens, I'll come on here and I'll eat my hat. You know what I'm saying? I will say I was wrong.
Yeah. Yep. Same here. Sometimes we gotta jump in here and eat some crow. I had to eat some crow about Utah. There was a comment earlier about how I said that we could compete with Oregon. And yeah, right. So I guess I have a little bit of an apology to everybody out here. I bought this staff and
I did
this
too.
new roster.
Did
Hook,
too.
line, and mother trucking sinker. I believed in every millisecond of it. I believed in every ounce of it. The clips that I got from fall and spring, I was so flipping excited to see guys like Wendell Gregory move around, Christian Fitzpatrick out here mossing people. Well, it turns out that we look good in the fall because it was shit on.
We were all Dookie. Everybody was Dookie. I was just as guilty as those people at those tent revivals back in the day. This elixir will fix all that ails you, and I thought this staff was going to be that elixir, and boy, they got me. They got
You're in
me.
your own bubble, though. You're in your own
That's-
bubble with
that's
everybody
true.
shares the same opinions. Like I fall for it too at West Virginia. Obviously, I thought the 81 new players. Listen, I did 1,000 shows over the summer on almost all 81 of those players, and every one of them were good on my show. You know what I mean? So I tried to at least spin it that direction. Obviously, not all more. There's levels to it, but I get 100% what you guys are talking about. Hell, even Neil Brown had me eat crow a time or two. That didn't mean he was a savior, you know. So,
well, Jason knows. You know, I'm pretty confident more often than not, but I have been burned like a mother trucker down on this show.
That's what I was telling you. That's what I was telling you yesterday. Be careful about what you believe in right now.
I know. Well, that's the thing is like I spent all weekend because I was going to do a show Sunday, but there was just too much coming at me. And there was too much that I was trying to nail down because, you know, rushing the gun when it came to the Dickey stuff, that was bad. That was really bad for old Cody Stovall here. But, you know, I do think that at the end of the day, Oklahoma State, this is probably theoretically the right move, but I do not like, in closing, I'll say this, I do not like the fact that they clearly did not gauge the pulse from the players. That's the only part of this that I do not like, that if they were going to make this move at this time, I wish they would have gone a little bit deeper to get a feel on, well, how much of this roster will we lose if we do this right away?
I don't think that you have to let that equate into the decision. If you believe that it's the right decision for the program, if you're actually coming at this and you believe it's 100% what's best for the university and the program, then you can't let the mob rule affect what you think, right? Because if you're going to fire him anyway, those same players that are like, no, we want him to stay or we're going to leave, when you fire him at the end of the season, they're just going to leave anyway.
Yeah, I real quick thing on that.
Yeah.
Whenever Bob Huggins got fired, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our players said, hey, look, if you hire Josh Eilert as the interim, we'll all stay, right? 2 days after he was hired, they all entered the portal and ransomed whether they would stay or not based off of the NIL situation.
Oh, you're going to see a lot of that at Oklahoma State too. I believe.
So it's going to happen. You're going to be held hostage. You just have to cut bait with those guys.
Unfortunately, that's an unintended consequence of the NIL era. And let's be real honest. I know Mike Gundy has caught some flack this season for talking about NIL, for talking about how much money Oregon spends. And, you know, people, it's funny, it's haha. Does Tulsa have more NIL than Oklahoma State? But it's true. That is the bottom dollar is the bottom dollar now. And that's what matters. And kids are going to go to places that can actually pay them. And when you're in Oklahoma State or West Virginia, you have to take what budget you have and go find the kids that fit your program the best, that you feel that you can keep around. But then you have to put some very competent, passionate coaches around them that want to do this. And I will say that's one thing that I think Gundy has lost. Not because of the game. I think he still loves to coach football. And I still think he really enjoys being around these young men and trying to, you know, create what he's always done at Oklahoma State. But the NIL, the stuff with the Board of Regents, and then just all the flack that he gets from the OAN stuff to the Chuba stuff to the everything. He's always in the spotlight, and everything gets misconstrued what he says. I personally think, and it showed walking off the field at the Tulsa game when he didn't even stop. Did you see that?
Yeah.
He didn't even stop. He looked at the student section and he went OSU and never stopped walking. Never stopped walking.
Yeah.
He was just done. He was done too. It was just time.
Yeah, I know. I agree. All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate you hopping in here. I appreciate Paul's perspective. Everybody out here live in the comment section, I greatly appreciate all of you out here. It's been a wild ride. It's been a wild time. But before we do skedaddle, El Jason Sherman, tell the people how they can find you.
I'm not a cool personality like these two guys. I don't work for Locked On, but you can find me. I'm Angry Pete on Twitter. I like to get on there on Spaces and chop it up all the time. Just talk some mess. What I will say to the West Virginia guy in here, though, if Neil Brown does wind up being our next head coach, I'm going to find out where you live, and I'm going to put a burning bag of dog poo on your front.
We can fight about that. We'll fight about it. We'll just have a good old fashioned fist fight over it.
Golly, I cannot believe you put that juju in the ethosphere, man.
Yeah, you
hey,
did.
Look,
you did
and
it,
listen,
Paul.
here's the thing: you'll be getting nice comments on the weather, all kinds of great things like that. Was the weather nice? Did you have fun? Like those kind of questions right after you lose to your biggest rivals.
What you do is, Jason.
We don't have a rival anymore, so that's good.
You ain't wrong. Don't do that. We'll go another 40 minutes on that crap. Dang it, I lost my train of thought. So that obviously,
well, that's not a surprise.
Well, again, I do have difficulty with words and verbiage.
With
and
concentration.
Yeah, but you know what? It's crazy that dude. Can you believe these people pay me to yell in front of a microphone? It's a wild time.
They shifted your focus from the clouds to the microphone.
Yeah, well, I try not to look up too much. I just keep my head down and keep it moving. All right, fellas, I do greatly appreciate all of you coming in here. We are going to dive a little bit deeper into the coach search and some of the potential limitations and some of the coaches that we go after, like I mentioned with Zach Robinson. All righty, y'all. That's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. Go to Locked On Mountaineer, West Virginia, Paul, so you can see what he's got rocking and rolling as well. Appreciate all of you. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like it. Dislike if you didn't. That's okay, too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast with people out there, you're the bricks, the bread, the butter, the fountain, the fondue. You're all the fun stuff, the funky stuff. I appreciate what you do. So go do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews as Oklahoma State is in a new era officially without the services of the man, the myth, the mullet himself, Michael Ray Gundy. Later, taters.